Up on Capitol Hill, some of the most high-profile Republican lawmakers declined to go anywhere near the latest round of comments from Donald Trump.
Donald Trump suggested that the president may be sympathetic in some way to the terrorists and the killer in Orlando. Do you think that was an appropriate thing for him to say?
Yeah, I'm not going to be commenting on the presidential candidate today.
Was it appropriate for Donald Trump to suggest that President Obama was somehow sympathetic to the cause of terrorists? Stand by your endorsement?
I'm not going to spend my time commenting about the ups and downs and the in-between by the comments. I am not going to get into the day-to-day habit of commenting on what the president says and what our nominee says.
Continue to be discouraged by the direction of the campaign and comments that are made. And I did not think yesterday's speech was the type of speech that one would give that wants to lead this country through difficult times.
Politico reports Majority Whip John Cornyn is done talking about Trump until after the election, nearly 5 months away. Wish me luck, said Senator Cornyn. Senator Lamar Alexander of Tennessee said, quote, "We do not have a nominee until after the convention." Reminded that Trump is the presumptive Republican nominee, Alexander replied, quote, "That's what you say."
Whoa.
And MSNBC's Benji Sarlin approached a number of politicians to talk about Trump's speech that came in the wake of the Orlando attack. When he asked Tim Scott, the senator stopped for a moment, said, quote, Then he left and walked onto the Senate floor without another word. As Senator Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania was asked about Trump's speech, he stepped onto an elevator. "I didn't follow it closely," he said. Then the elevator doors closed. When Congressman Patrick McHenry was asked whether he had any thoughts about Trump's speech and the Muslim ban proposal, he went quiet, made a shrugging motion. "No," he said, adding that he's focused on a defense appropriations bill. When Benji Sarlin asked whether the congressman supports the nominee, quoting Benji here, he suggested I call his office. Wow. Let's bring in NBC News political director, moderator of Meet the Press, host of MTP Daily, Chuck Todd. Chuck, we just read that long litany. Yeah. I mean, you can see it on the faces of Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan in those sound bites. They don't want to talk about it anymore, but they got to.
By the way, Mitch McConnell, man, he's like the Marshawn Lynch sometimes of politicians, because he just says it so stone cold sober, right? I'm not commenting on the presidential candidates today. Translation, you know where you can stick it with that question. I mean, there was something about McConnell that just, it said so much with so little. Look, this is, we're in the midst here. We talked about it before. Trump has picked a bad time to have a bad time in this campaign. They're trying desperately to find donors. I think that you cannot have your polls start cratering in June, the month before the convention, while you're trying to raise money for your campaign. That's going to happen. I think the next test now, Ben Ginsburg said it yesterday on my show. He said, you won't fully have the ability to have a revolt at the convention unless Toomey, Ayotte, Johnson, Portman all see their numbers look like the presidential race by the end of the month. And who knows? And I think that'll be the test. That would be the trigger for McConnell and the rest to go from no comment anymore to it's time to do something about this.
Bob Woodward, I just can't think of another time in modern political history where you've had leaders on Capitol Hill run away from their presumptive nominee the way Republicans did yesterday.
Yes, it's clearly extraordinary, but remember, this is the establishment, the political establishment, people who hold office that Trump is running against. And so there are lots of Trump supporters who say, oh yeah, they're stiffing our candidate. So, and you can take polls, and I think that's significant. Again, we don't know where this is going. Suppose there's, God help us, a catastrophic terrorist attack in this country that connects to the people Trump is railing against. Then what happens in the polls. So it's very volatile, and I think we're kind of making a mistake in saying, gee, all these establishment figures don't like what Trump's doing.
Mike Barnicle, at some point, you've got to bring your party together. If you're Republicans, you especially have to bring your party together because you're always, running uphill in a presidential race. And So he's struggling to do what most people do automatically. And then you got to start worrying about pulling Democrats and independents your way.
Well, how can he bring his party together when he has absolutely no self-discipline? I mean, he cannot control himself clearly in what he says every single day. And almost everything he says every single day does something to disenfranchise or one Republican or another. Look at Jeff Flake the other day, Senator from Arizona, asked specifically, point blank, are you going to endorse Donald Trump? And he basically said no.